And so, backed by popular demand, no, it has nothing to do with my popularity. People want to see the Somnia Tarot by Nicholas Bruno. And so we're kind of moving from the realm of the Terra Volatile that we just finished doing a walkthrough. I'm going to try to keep this succinct, aka within an hour long, so that, and it may just be you and I, Patrick. We shall see, but we'll get her done and take a look at this deck. So this is just for people watching it back later. This is a deck that when it first came out, I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I think the photography work is stunning. What I was concerned about with this one, I know I was influenced by people. I was bullied into doing a second one. I don't always allow that to happen, but this is the one I was going to do a walkthrough of tonight, and I had talked about that. And then the other one came in, and I wanted to do that where I picked cards with everybody. So that is why. That's why I allowed myself to be. And again, I really don't have anything else to do, so why not? So I was really intrigued with this. My issue was I'm claustrophobic. And so all of the sheets over the heads and mostly even just the ropes around the necks holding the sheets over the head, it just kind of was like, I don't know, but it's so absolutely gorgeous. So it's just that thing. I will say, so I really thought it would have a much more of a creepier vibe. I know I have a lot of decks, but I do like to keep decks. I know. Thank you, Patrick. I'm definitely going to. I really, don't really have a use of creepy decks because I'm just not something I'm going to use for clients. Most of my readings are for clients, so I really do like to buy decks that I'm at least somewhat interested in using. And so, no, I'm sorry, not bullied there's not really a nice way to be bullied, is it? I'm just teasing. I would say no if I wanted to say no. Sorry, neighborhood arts. That was not an appropriate use of the word when there are people who are truly bullied. So I take that back. Pressured. Gently and lovingly pressured. Is that better? So anyways, okay, let me try to introduce this for a minute. So I really thought it would be very creepy, to be honest. I will say I've looked through this. I had to put it in order. So I did look through the deck as I was putting it in order. But when I try to do stuff like that, I really try to not look too closely if I know I'm going to do a walkthrough of it. But I have looked through it and shuffled it while it was already out of order. And I have to say, I have not gotten any creepy vibes from it, which is very surprising because, again, just some of my own issues I thought would cause that to be more creepy to me. But it doesn't feel creepy at all. It actually feels very much, I do a lot of work on ancestor readings and I do a lot of past life readings. And this deck has a feeling of that because we look to our past lives through a veil. We can't see all of the details. We can't see the faces very often. Sometimes you can. I do have memories with faces in them of past lives, but my point is you're not seeing clearly. There are a lot of things that are veiled and covered in past life work and in ancestral work. We're seeing our ancestors through generational time and just lack of knowledge and all kinds of things. And so for me so far, now again, I haven't done a full walkthrough of this, but my initial reaction to this was like, oh, this feels like very much like liminal space. the other world where things aren't entirely clear, and it feels very ancestral and very past life. So that is, I think, um how I would see myself so far using this deck. Okay. Is that enough of a lead in? It's important because the truth is I think the photography is amazing. I don't think there's any question about that. But I really didn't expect this to be a deck that I liked enough to use, if that makes sense. So let's take a look without further ado. This one, I was wrong last time and I corrected it in the last video, but I will say it here correctly. There is a guidebook that I don't know if it's, Patrick would know because you had sent me the link to it. There is a guidebook that you can purchase. I don't know if there's any kind of guidebook online, but there is one that's going to be either is purchasable now or is going to be purchasable. The write-ups that I saw on one of the things did look really interesting. So we'll see. We'll see. So the box is gorgeous. The image is gorgeous. The gold on the box is gorgeous. Like, this is really beautiful. You know, nice sizing. It's just a beautifully done box, right? This is self-published. I'm trying to see. It has website. It looks like somniatarot.com. Explore the world of tarot through the visions of Nicholas Bruno, an artist who transforms his dreams and nightmares into surreal imagery. Each artwork within the Somnia Tarot showcases Bruno's work within the mediums of photography, sculpture, and costume design. The Somnia Tarot is comprised of a box set of 68 full-color cards and an information booklet. And again, there is a guidebook that you can get. So, again, really beautiful, sturdy box, you know, nothing, you know, that sounds terrible to say nothing to write home about because it's just beautifully done. It's just clean, beautiful. I think we're definitely getting spoiled in the box department compared to when I first started doing walkthroughs. Here's the back. Again, clean white. I would not edge this simply because you do have this clean white border, clean white border on the back, and all of the white on the backing. It really looks quite beautiful and cohesive. So this is not a deck that I would be doing anything to. I have no clue, you know, what the cardstock is, but it feels beautiful, like a beautiful satin cardstock. Okay, let's see what we get in the booklet. So this looks like a booklet, right? Special thanks to people. I know that they used family and friends to be under the sheets. So I'm sure that is not something I would do. If one of my friends wants to make a deck like this, I would not be being tied, a sheet tied around my throat like that. So props to them. But yeah, it looks like pretty much keywords here: new beginnings, leap of faith, instinctual, dreamer, wanderer, innocence. You know, this is a very much a keyword booklet here of your basics. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit more. I mean, I don't know if anybody's trimmed this, if anybody has yet trimmed this. I wouldn't, for me, I'm not going to trim it. I wouldn't want to ruin the backing. It depends on how accurate that is, but then you're going to be obviously trimming some of that bottom off. I don't see myself trimming this. Different decks I do trim all the time, but this one so far I wouldn't see myself doing that, but I would love to see somebody else do it. I actually really like this Fool energy. I like that he's literally starting from inside us. This is one of my things that I always say about the Fool is that it's not actually a new beginning, right? Because they're up on top of the mountain. They actually have taken a big journey before they even got to the top of that mountain. Where I do like this Fool, where we feel like we are literally starting at the beginning. They are broken free of their ties or their restraints, and they are leaving. That's kind of what I see here, is even the chairs. I will say that this is very dark in terms of the artwork. and you barely see what's going in person. You see more in the camera, but you don't really see a lot of detail here in the darkness. But it makes the window and the escaping and the leaving. Look at how he's got scissors in his hand. So he's already using the tools at his disposal to get himself out and start fresh. So it's a different take on the Fool, and I actually quite like it. Here we have the Magician. This is pretty cool. You're from behind the Magician, and you're almost seeing the mists rising up. He's got, again, the sword. He's got a pentacle. He has got the candle, a fire in his hand. Looks like a vessel that's back here, like a bucket that's dumping out water. So you kind of have the tools of the trade. And it looks like he is like calling up the forces, which I think is pretty cool. Because, you know, we see him in the act of manifestation. Beautiful High Priestess. I love that she's at the edge of the water here in the liminal space. I love the columns. So you have the nod to the original symbology. Sorry. This is, you can blame Patrick. A neighborhood arc. No, she's feeling bad. So just blame Patrick. He can take it. Blame Patrick. But words might be hard here. We have the High Priestess. I love the symbols, but it's used in smoke, right? There's a different take on that than the columns, because obviously this is photography. So this person is a photographic artist, what do you want to call it? He's not just, he's setting up these scenes as constructions of art, but then he is photographing them. So he has to be able to use what he can to be able to create the scenes, because from what I understand now, I could be not 100% accurate, but I believe these are all set up in person. These aren't things that the art has been then like digitally put in there. These are actual scenes set up and then photographed. And so I really like that ingenuity of putting that. Now they could have photographed this separately and then put the two images together. I'm not sure exactly how it was done, but I like the ingenuity here of creating the scene. And in this case, a High Priestess, her coveredness works quite well. Here we have the Empress, and this is interesting because she actually doesn't have a sheet. She's got her hair over her face to cover her. It looks like a sewing machine. It looks like an old sewing machine. I don't know if Deirdre is back on here or not, or she just thought we weren't going to do any more, but I think it's an old sewing machine. So I really like that for an empress, right? She's creating, as empresses do. The emperor is ruling their world, and the empress is creating the world. And so I do like that for the empress. Here we have the emperor, again, much more structured, very interesting. With that blacksmith, whatever those are called, like that blacksmith, is it an anvil? I think it's an anvil for blacksmith over his head, the weight of the crown. You know, you get that sense of the weight of the crown with that. That's really quite powerful for the emperor. It's not, but look at, he's got a hold of the rope that is holding the anvil. So he does have some control, but of course, if somebody comes in and attacks him or something like that, and he's going to let go of that rope, he could definitely squash himself. So I do like the heaviness of the crown in that imagery. Here we have the Hierophant. I actually like this Hierophant much more than the traditional Pope ones. It does have, again, I feel like you're looking at people that you can't see clearly, like ancestral energy. I can see this more as ancestral energy, again, past lives and things like that, because we can't see the faces. It does have a powerful imagery to it. Casey says, I like the implication that if he loses control, the anvil will crash on his head. Exactly. And destroy the kingdom. Exactly, Casey. I actually think that's quite a powerful emperor. So I like this. This works. And again, I'm not, and this is surprising because I truly feel like I thought that this would be much more make me anxious. Does that make sense? If you're somebody who is claustrophobic, the idea of being tangled up in sheets like that I will wake up in panics if my legs get tangled up. I don't like the feeling of that. And so like I would not be able to do this and sit for this picture. But it's not, looking at it isn't inducing any kind of anxiety to me. And so that is surprising. Here we have the lovers. Interesting, you know, now you have the imagery of the burning tree. I don't think that they can say that no trees were harmed in the making of this card, but that may not be an actual tree. They're on a beach. They probably stuck like a big branch in there, is what it almost looks like. So don't worry. I'm going to guess that that's the case. But you definitely have some, again, those traditional imageries that you see. But I really like the ladder here and that movement of the ladder upward and or downward. Did they come down and now they're making this decision? Or are they going to ascend this? Who's going to ascend the ladder first? I just like that imagery of the ladder there. They're really making a decision to commit to going upward into the beanstalk, the kingdom above in the clouds. But this, I like this. It does hearken to the Garden of Eden with the two trees, but it doesn't have a Garden of Eden feel, which isn't my favorite. Neighborhood Art says I wouldn't mind the binding around the neck. I would definitely agree with you on that, but it's not too bad. Here we have the Chariot. This is really interesting. And I read somewhere, Patrick might know, all of this was, you know, obviously all of these photographs were taken in a space. Here, let's see what this, I know I'm a bad reviewer. Let's look at this after we've already started. My first exposure to tarot came from the childhood. In the basement of my grandmother's home, I discovered the tarot deck that belonged to my great-grandmother, Yaya. In secret, I would climb up a high shelf and retrieve the deck, which was hidden among her other antiques and trinkets. Because I was forbidden to touch the cards out of superstition, it made them even more alluring to my childhood curiosity. Growing up in a Greek Orthodox family, superstitions and traditions were commonplace throughout all aspects of my life. Each time I visited Yaya's cards, I became increasingly more captivated by the imagery within them. This peculiar memory followed me into adulthood, where I would soon discover tarot in a new way. Through this series, the tale of classic tarot is told through the mediums of photography, sculpture, costume design, and dream journal recordings. Various characters and symbolism from sleep paralysis experiences are woven together. Oh, I do not have sleep paralysis issues. The idea of sleep paralysis is terrifying. I have grew up with night terrors, and my daughter has night terrors. So I have a lot of sleep issues. I have a very bad insomnia. But when I wake up in an altered state, I am not paralyzed, and I tend to run, and I will run into walls and things like that. I haven't had them for a long time. I have to be very, very anxious. They did slow down or almost stop upon leaving a 23-year marriage. Not because the person was a horrible person, but I think stress reduction really went down 11 years ago. And so some of that went. If I'm really stressed out or sleep deprived, I will sometimes still have terrors. But even when I was little, my aunts, if we were out of town, they would have to sleep in front of the door so that I didn't sleepwalk outside of hotels. And my daughter has the same. She's a runner. I've had to chase her out of the house. She'll get out of the house and be running. And so night terrors, but sleep paralysis where you cannot move, but you're awake in this sort of altered state. That's for me, movies and things like that with sleep paralysis always really creep me out. So some of the symbolisms are from sleep paralysis. The conception of the Somnia tarot began during the early stages of COVID-19 pandemic and was completed in late 2020, November 2020. Each photograph was created within the marshlands and shorelines of Long Island, New York. The characters within the series are portrayed by self-portraiture, my family members, and close friends. Okay, sorry. We interrupt the walkthrough of this to do what I should have looked at the beginning. So, this is very different, right? You have this movement through with the chariot. They're kind of slow going here in the midst. Oftentimes we see the chariot on top of the water and just plowing ahead confidently, even through the crazy water. This one's a little bit more of that, okay, we're just going to keep pushing through here feel, right? It doesn't have a speed factor to it. But to be honest, if you look at the traditional chariots, they don't look like they're moving at all. They look like these big hunks of square things that are just no way they could move at all. So this does have, in some ways, closer to the energy of some of the older chariot cards. This is beautiful. I do remember seeing this or looking at this. This is the strength card. Look at the bear trap or like big animal trap that's here. I think that's a really powerful strength card there. Is she setting the trap to catch her wild self, or is she releasing the trap so that she can fully embody the wild self? Like, there's a lot of ways that you could roll with that. It's definitely very different imagery. I want to say that I almost prefer the people that have the sheets over their heads, because there's a little bit of that creepy factor of like, what is that scary movie? Like with the girl, like it's like a Chinese, I think it's Chinese, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's Japanese, kind of horror movie with the hair, and she's like all wet and she's got the hair in front of her face. It kind of has that kind of creep vibes that I find actually a little bit creepier than the the cloth over the head. The Grudge or The Ring. Yes. Yeah, it kind of has a little bit. I still find that to be really intriguing. And I guess that's what I would most say about this deck so far of seeing it, is that it's very intriguing, and it kind of causes you to look twice and to kind of just really think about the cards from a different angle. Some of you did talked about the point of view of the magician, but I almost feel like a lot of these, like the hermit, we generally see the hermit up in the mountains, going up into the mountains, but this looks like he's striding out into the water, right? And of course, some of these were the limitations of where they were going to take the pictures, but I feel like the artist has utilized that and made that be to their advantage, because it just causes you to see those traditional imageries that you can catch there, but they're in a different way, like the fool coming out of the house at the very beginning, having cut themselves free from a chair. That's a very different point of view, even while we see the same imagery of a new beginning, a new journey. So I really like that about this so far. Do you think the images are more darker to look at? Yes, actually, Seaside Tarot, I would so far, I would say this does have a more darker tone to them, even though there are obviously some bright ones, but the shadowed aspects, there is a dark aspect to them. I would say more so than the Tarot Volatile. Okay, so that was the Hermit. Sorry. This is a Burning Time. Like, this is such an interesting take on the Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Indigo. I like it. That's what I like. It's like looking in, again, they don't live where there's mountains. So I think this idea of just entering into the water like this is quite powerful. It's a different perspective that kind of forces you to see the familiar symbology in different spaces that causes you to look twice. I don't think that's a bad thing. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay. Wheel of Fortune. Again, we've got this clock that is on fire. This idea of burning the clock and not being slave to time, not being slave to the cycles and the tick, tick, tick. What is the new encounter? Dun, 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 with Louisa. Not about time, but that sense of being burdened by this, and you can only hold on so long, and they're just going to burn the clock down. Pretty cool. Justice is very cool. But again, you've got this very familiar image of justice. We've got the sword, we've got the scales, but justice appears to be moored or to be tied down in a way. So what way does justice not being free to approach things in a just way, what that really speaks to the shadow side of justice? When can justice become something that is restrictive? When can justice itself be restricted, and what can the results of that be? Yeah, I agree, it does have a left-hand path feel. It's definitely, because again, we know some of these images are coming out of sleep paralysis, so I definitely think that there's going to be shadow in here, but I don't necessarily think, or I definitely don't think that that's a bad thing. I think being aware of it so that you're utilizing it in a way that works for you in terms of what types of readings that you're using it for. But I think it makes you think about things a little bit differently. Here we have the Hanged Man, again, very traditional. From what somebody said earlier, this is the artist hung upside down over the top of water, it looks like. So you have that reflection there in it. Again, have that little nod to Odin being hung over the water to gain the runes. So again, but pretty traditional look of the to the Hanged Man. This is on the box. Like, this is really a stunning. Look at that. That one's slightly creepy because you can see the face through it. This one is not the same image, but it's obviously taken from the same series. And you have that traditional flag that you would see, but look at the draping of the fabric, because this is real fabric. And I don't know if that's a real horse or a horse dummy. Might be a horse statue. I don't think you could put that over a horse. That's really cool. Very, very cool. But again, quite traditional. I liked the veil to death. We can't see, we look through the glass darkly. We really don't know what death really looks like and where it's heading and where it's going. So I think that that's pretty cool. Way to approach it. Look at Temperance. That's beautiful. I much prefer this than sort of an archangel kind of look to Temperance. I love the teapot here. Has a ceremonial feel with the teacup and the teapot. Again, just the draping of the fabric. The fabrics, they're literally standing in that area against the ocean, right, where there is still land and sea that's mixing, which goes very well with the Temperance energy. That's really a beautiful Temperance card. I really love that. Here we have the Devil. Again, I think this is gorgeous. There's that sense of entanglement. It's much less, they've just got themselves all tangled up. They've given over their power. It works very well as a devil card. You don't need to have like a creepy looking devil with, things coming out of his mouth and his ears and everything. You don't really need that to evoke the power. This to me is very powerful. I love the ropes that are just kind of all tangled up here. These are not clean, smooth connections. These are entanglements. And I think that works really beautiful. I like I like the temperance a lot because it feels like, again, that ritual pouring of the waters, and then you're mixing in the tea, and you're mixing in the tea or the sugar or the milk or whatever is in the tea, and then the water is coming in and combining those things and creating something new. I really like that, but I'm a big tea person, so I think it's really quite subtle and powerful. But I can get why it's not everybody's cup of tea. Don't throw fruit at me, Zach. Okay, Devil, I'm a fan of. I love this. This actually might be, and I have seen this one. This might be one of my absolute favorite tower cards. That is so powerful. Here is that literal feeling of being so weighed down, like she's actually going to have punter. That was really bad, but I couldn't resist. Um, Hi Milo. This is an indie deck. Um, Patrick will know whether or not this is a deck Patrick bought and then passed on to me. He likes to experience decks, but he doesn't always like to keep them. Um, this is really cool. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked by chat. Um, Oftentimes we talk about the tower as burning away those things that have become unbalanced. Think about like the Fountain Tarot's tower card. This has that sense of that they're actually going to, in the long run, it's difficult right now and it's not fun to have a burning house on your back, but when this is burnt away, that she's actually going to be freed from it. So I really love that. Oh, I love this. There's it's interesting, right? Because I wouldn't call this a simple deck, but because of the nature of having to set up these shoots and things like that, there is a simplicity about the setups. That's not even the right word necessarily to use, because I'm sure these were not simple to set up, but you had to keep things relatively constrained into the space of making the photograph. And so there is a cleanness and a simplicity in a way about a starkness, maybe that's a better word, that feels it's very powerful feeling. So I'm getting all kinds of like chest feels, if that makes sense, of both some shadowy, in a good way, shadowy feel, but also but also there's a powerfulness about the starkness. I guess that's the best way I can put it, and try to make sense out of it, like what it feels like in person. And this really speaks to that. This is such a simple image in the sense that you have a person and their footsteps to the top here, and the light of the sky coming through and getting their bearing and finding their, setting their course to be able to see which way to keep going. But it's just a person standing on the top of the hill. Beautiful lighting, but it is a starkness about it, but it's really powerful because it's so beautifully lit, and it's very well done. I will say, I mean, look at that. This is literally just a person in the water with a partial ladder here. It's gorgeous. It's very powerful moon card. It's being in the depths of the moon and in the depths of the water, but climbing your way out again. Like, that is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, lots of water. Obviously, this creator is taking all of these on the coastline of Long Island. So very watery feel to this deck, but it feels like, again, the subconscious like thought thing he says. It feels like you're in the liminal space. It feels like, again, you're looking at ancestral energy, past life energy, transitional energy because of all the water. It's actually very powerful feeling. Um, That's really gorgeous. Again, super gorgeous, super simple, similar, right? Obviously, there's only so much you can do with a horse with a sheet on it, versus, but these do feel different. The lighting is different. I love the fabric that's draping all the way down, over this, breakwater or whatever they call those, that they're standing on. That's really quite beautiful. But there's not much of difference here, but it stands out differently. You can see the sun, on the horizon, and the lightness there. It's really quite beautiful. Oops, am I messing these up? Probably, sorry. Yeah, I agree. Because sometimes a simplicity and starkness isn't easy to pull off without it just looking like you kind of half-assed it and it didn't quite, go all the way in on it. And this does not at all feel like this. It feels like part of the power of the deck. Here's Judgment again. Like, I would take this Judgment over that last Judgment that we had to do. It's quite gorgeous. Again, it's the simplicity. We've got this ladder going upward. We saw the ladder in the Lover's card where it was a choice. Not so much a choice here, right? In the Judgment card, it's kind of the time for having that choice is over. It's time to go on and go upwards to the next place. And again, we have the repeat of the ladder in the Moon card as well. So I like those repeated connections between the cards. But this is really beautiful. I like the black veiled of what we would normally see as the dead people. And again, the image of that almost looks like the angel image here with the way that they're doing the halos. But this is quite loose and quite open, which is different. There really isn't a lot of choice at this point. Quite beautiful. Kaylee says the creativity is there and I can appreciate the work, but for me, the images actually hurt your eyes because it's too soft. That's interesting. It is soft, although not in a blurry sense. But that's quite interesting. This is gorgeous. Again, traditional imagery, in the sense that you have that sort of nod to the laurel wreath here. You have the meeting of the sky and the land, and the sea here, which kind of speaks to the three realms, which is really gorgeous. Again, her face is covered, but she's got an open book in front of her because we know she's going to step into the next story with the World card. So that's pretty beautiful. Have you seen the Mara Luna tarot? It seems to have that simplicity as well. I'll have to look and see. I'll have to write that on a sticky note because I'll forget. I don't have much of a memory. I mean, I have a memory, obviously, for remembering tarot and things like that. But if I walk away from this, I will forget you ever said that. So I will write it down so I can come back and look. Here we have the Ace of Wands. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to keep the aces out and look at that. Now, see, that's beautiful. And that's beautiful. Okay, what I like about this, I love the 2 and 3 of Wands are cards that I just have found out myself really being drawn to in decks. This is really, really gorgeous. I like this kind of open way in this passageway as she is setting her course. But what I like here is that this is very traditional, right? We can see the traditional standing and waiting for the ships to come in. But what I like about this is that I like the torches because it almost looks like they're climbing up to like light the torch fires of some kind. And so it feels a little bit more of an active wand than just kind of standing there and looking out into the ocean, seeing ships coming back. So these are really beautiful. I quite like them. Here we have the 4 of Wands. Now, I will say this doesn't feel overly celebratory. We have the candlesticks here, but look at this way in which these are being kind of pulled together. Sorry, I know this is not how people like to see, but I've seen a lot of this so far where you're seeing those sort of these themes running through, right? You have the 4 of Wands where you have the coming together, take a rest, celebrate where you're at right now. And then the 5 comes in and disrupts the whole celebration by blowing out the candles, right? And then the 6 of Wands comes in and restores the balance and sets the candles alight again through the light of the sky. I like that series effect that you have with those. I think that's really cool and quite smart. And then we're going to just kind of literally let's go storm Frankenstein Castle. That's what I'm seeing with this 7 of Wands. There's all of the villagers and they're coming to storm Dr. Frankenstein's house, and the monster is standing his ground. Adam is saying, nope, you can come for me, but I am not going to go quietly into that dark night. And bam, I like that. And now we have the chandelier over that's interesting. Well, this is a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, right? So we have the swiftness, that moving over the head, but that moment is going to occur when it lights and it's ready to go, and you have to be ready to seize the day, grab the chandelier and like swing forth. This one is a little bit of an odd one for me, but I mean, it gives me hits, and that's really what you're looking for, right? You're looking at images and saying, but then you get that snap hit, and it takes you to a little bit of a different place than the 8 of Wands generally does, because I see this person just looking straight ahead, but they're seeing in their peripheral, this is kind of swinging, and I just see him at some point just grabbing that and just swinging right out of that chair. I don't know. That's an interesting one, but I can roll with it. Ooh, this is beautiful. Oh, I love this. I love this. I love this. It definitely has that feel like there's been a lot that has happened. And there's a lot that's come crashing down on this what seems to be a woman here. But they are not giving up, and they're standing and they're waiting. You know, it kind of reminds me of that song from Dido, the white flag song. There's not a white flag in here, so I don't know why that song came to my mind. But there is that sense of I'm going to stand and I'm going to wait. Or maybe it's not the white flag. No, I'm not sure. There's one where she's waiting for her lover to come back from sea. And that's kind of the feel that this has. And neither, storm nor crashing chandeliers in the water is going to stop her from holding on until they come. Like from Candle on the Water from Peach Dragon. That's I like that. I quite like that. Ooh, look at the 10. So we have a similar energy here. Let's see if I can find it. Because remember that the 10 of Wands is often that sense of duty, sense of that sense of responsibility that is a weight of the crown of the emperor. Well, the 10 of Wands has that sense of responsibility and duty as well. It's in the minor, so it's not the major sense of that. We see the major the major iteration of that in the major arcana, but we still see that especially in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, we see that in the 10 of Wands, and that is really quite beautiful. Again, I don't see the 10 of Wands necessarily to being about duty. I do think there's a responsibility. With great power, which the 10 of Wands is a card of great power, comes great responsibility. Not to the level of the Emperor, because this is minors, but in the minors, this is a responsibility to hold that fire aloft, and that's exactly what she's doing. You do also have a kind of old school vibe of sort of the witch burnings and things of that nature. For those of us who read the Highland Witch or Korag in the class that we did together, kind of has that sense of that weight of that fire over her head, but she's holding it aloft. Very beautiful. Yeah, I really like those. The wands, I really like the Suit of Wands. Here we have a page. Very interesting. Doesn't feel youthful to me. I would have liked to seen this a little bit more youthful, but it does have a sense of being at the table and learning. Not my favorite. And I'm going to keep this out and just kind of see what the other pages are. This is gorgeous. I love this Knight of Wands. Again, I like the candlesticks all throughout the wands. I think that that brings a lot of cohesion to it. That's quite beautiful. Look at the Queen of Wands. Woo. She definitely looks like power incarnate. What is going on with her face? Ooh, does she have like a creepy mask on? I gotta go to sleep after this. I don't know if I want to look too close. She's got like a mask or something. That is really cool. This looks like you've stepped upon the Queen of Wands. Like you've stepped into the presence of old power. Bye, Brienne. um I think it's quite powerful. Yeah, but I like this feel of witch. This is like, don't mess with me. This is beautiful. Uncomfortable, but we should be uncomfortable in the presence of great power. That's cool. Hi, Anna. And then the king, he's cool as well. I really like this king and queen a lot. I would mess with him before I would mess with her. In person, that's the vibe I have. Really cool. Really, really, really cool. Like I said, for me, I can see myself using this in past life readings or again, ancestor readings. It's got the, oh, look at that Ace of Swords. I love that. Yeah, I agree, Patrick. That if that queen is a witch, then she's definitely going to light some people on fire. Real, yeah. The creator was dealing with sleep paralysis. On this, some of the themes of sleep paralysis are here as well. Quite powerful. I really like this Queen of Wands. Again, she makes you uncomfortable. I have recently had a dream of walking. It was a true dream of stepping into a place of power. I never saw the presence, but this is the person. There was a fire burning at the opening of the little building that I was walking around, and I just knew to get out of there. It wasn't evil, but it was powerful, and that kind of is like an embodiment of that energy. Very gorgeous. Okay. This is cool. I love this ace. So far, I really like the aces. Again, this is not an easy medium, right? To be able to set these up, to photograph, and to have it just to be so powerful feeling is just, I think, really well done. Whether I think you like this deck or you don't, oh, that is stunning. I mean, I'm a big Two of Swords person. It's the only tarot tattoo I have is the Two of Swords. That is stunning. Kaylee says, my comment was too long. Oh, I must have missed it. I'm so sorry. Basically, I had sleep paralysis as a kid and stuff. Oh, yeah. I have a lot of difficulty issues around ghosts, just because of not paralysis, but because of ghost issues as a child. But I could see, I can definitely understand, Kaylee. I do not think that this would be a deck for everybody. I really thought that this would make me uncomfortable because, again, I have claustrophobia. And I really thought it would make me uncomfortable. I will say it doesn't, for me, it does not in person. And I would have thought that it would have won. This is just beautiful. Again, like we've seen a billion Two of Swords like this, but this is photographed just gorgeously. Absolutely gorgeously. There's nothing I would change about that. You've got the sky meeting the water. You've got to bring your head and your heart together in order to uncross the swords. I prefer my Two of Swords to have that skyline meeting the water line. And when she pulls her head and heart together, she's going to stand up and walk forward. Beautiful. Really, really beautiful. The color shifting here from top to bottom in person is really beautiful. Here's the Three of Swords. Again, very simple. We have 3 swords. We have a person who is, again, Rider-Waite-Smith, where 3 of swords is about heartbreak. We have a 5 of cups. That is the heartbreak card. Sorry, Arthur E. Waite. I'm not a fan of that interpretation of the 3 in swords, but it is the system. For me, it's about learning, right? So the number 3 is a number of growth. You're going to grow from your experiences, and that could be heartbreak, but it could also be other things as well that cause us to grow. I like that they're not being pierced. They're taking in the lessons that they've learned so that they can grow. This is beautiful. Again, very simple, very stark, but very effective imagery, in my opinion. Very interesting, isn't it? Again, so stark of a landscape, and having somebody rest. I like that they use, I like to think, having done some photography, that this might have been born out of difficulty, like it being very windy and the blankets were all around. So they decided they needed to stick the swords in the corners to keep the blankets from blowing all over the place. Trying to do like wedding photography when the dresses and the veils flying all over the place. But I like it. It's just a rest. It's going to have to pick up and go forth from there after taking a rest. Ooh, look at this 5 of swords. Sorry, I'm going to pick this one up. I will say these are dark in person. You can see it better in the monitor, but you definitely have darkness to look closely at in person. Of course, it's late and this area is a little bit shadowed. But here we have the 5 of swords. Again, I like this entanglement because the suit of swords is the suit of the mind. You want to be able to reach those swords and approach things from an intellectual way, right? That's what you're attempting to do. And so having the this being tied up and entangled in your own mind so that you can't reach the swords cleanly, I think is really cool. There's a disruption. There is something that is stopping you from being able to access the information that you need. I think that's really gorgeous. And I like the in person, I like the shadow versus this light that's coming in here, because this is a dark place. To feel entangled, to feel anxious, to feel stressed, to have your mental space be all not to the 9 of swords, but still disruptive, is an uncomfortable feeling. So it's pretty cool. Again, I think these are all left of center. They're approaching things in a way in which you can see the traditional symbologies, but it's coming at it from a different perspective. And if you let yourself kind of shift with it, I think that it is really quite a powerful shift in the point of view, just like a person behind a camera is doing. They're shifting perspective. And that's what it feels like. You're taking those traditional imageries and then you're shifting it left or right of center. And it just throws you off a little bit. But if you snaps into another point of view, that's really useful. Even if you just watch a walkthrough like this of that, it just allows you to think about the cards a little bit differently. And I find that to be really useful. So yeah, I think that's quite cool. Images are very beautiful. However, I don't know if I'd use this for everyone that I read for it. But yeah, this is not a deck that I would pull out for, just a standard tarot reading with a client that I didn't know. But I would definitely use this for myself. I might even use it for clients in past life readings and ancestor readings, but I would have a conversation with the person about the deck first. So yeah, I wouldn't just spring this on somebody. Here we have the 6 of swords. Again, I actually really love this because obviously the traditional 6 of swords, they're generally taking a boat off into the water. This would be a really easy one for them to do. This deck is on the coastline, but instead it's the suit of air. So they're in an air balloon basket, and we almost have these graves of the battle, and they're going to rise up from that. That to me is fantastic. I don't know why, there aren't more 6 of swords. And there are a lot of like birds flying them off or things like that. But I think there should be more like this because we're not in the water, we're in the air. Sorry. I've been talking too much today. Okay, 6 of swords. Love it. Seven of Swords. I like this as well. Again, pretty traditional. They're making off with a bunch of swords, and we don't know why they're making out with the swords. So the Seven of Swords for me, we don't know what's happening. We better get some more information. But I really like that they're bogged down in this mire too. It's like he is slogging through that muck and that mire to get those swords, but we don't know what's happening, and we better go deeper. All of the sevens for me, you've got to get the foundation of the four before you can get the growth. You better figure out what's actually happening so that then you can get that movement in the mental space to be able to figure out the situation. Beautiful Eight of Swords. Again, being this is all on the coastline, they just have done a really amazing job of using that place between water and land that is so boggy. I think they've done a great job utilizing that energy in the photographs. That's really beautiful. Here we have the Nine of Swords. I like this Nine of Swords. I'm a fan. I'm not a big fan of, the Nine of Swords is dynamic energy. It's energy that's bouncing all over. It's the eternal state of my brain, and it's not comfortable, right? It's not supposed to necessarily. She looks actually a little bit too comfortable with the Nine of Swords over her, but it can be used for good. If you've got all that energy in your mind, you can utilize that. Just bring it down a notch. You can have real problems you've got to take care of, but bring it down a notch so that you can actually deal with it. So I don't mind a traditional imagery of the Nine of Swords. It works. But I will say that this doesn't feel very nightmarish. This feels like she's just like, yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on, but I'll work through it. Here we have the Ten of Swords. That box that they were carrying. Is this the same box? Similar. It certainly ties in with this. We don't know what's going on here. But he was apparently carrying up a dead body. But maybe he's going to free him. He could not be dead. Right now, he's carried him. He's slogged him up the mountain in the muck and the mire so that he could get him out of whatever circumstance he is in. And now he's going to be able to wake up and come out of here. That's where I'm going with. That's where I'm taking that one. I love this Page of Swords. I like this much better than this Page of Wands. I really do. That's pretty. Knight of Swords. Again, I like the mist that's here. Okay. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. Let's grab our queen. We're playing here. We're allowed to play. You guys talked me into doing this, so now you get to put up with my crazy brain. All right, what am I trying to find? I'm trying to find that powerful Queen of Wands. We've got some powerful queens in this deck so far. Oh my goodness, why is it when you go to try to find something, now you of course can't find the one card? The cardstock feels really nice, riffling. It's very smooth and matte. So there, she does have a bit. I'm interested to see, again, this whole deck is water based. So, we have to roll with that because that's the theme of the deck. And it works for the subconscious, as somebody had said earlier, or again, past lives, sleep working through, shamanic journeying, that type of energy. So the water works there. But I love that she's holding the sword. I love the blue of the sheet. I love her hand pointing straight forward, which is gorgeous. So very different energy between the two of them, both very powerful though. And then we have our King of Wands. Again, I feel the same way with the King and the Queen of Wands. I like the queens, I think, are kind of ruling this deck, but I'm loving the queens so far. Okay, so here we have our Ace of Cups. Again, I'm really a fan of the aces. I think they did a really good job on the aces. This is pretty cool. Two of Cups. Again, very traditional imagery. It's very easy. Apparently, Patrick said the cardstock is matte. It's very beautiful feeling. It's super smooth matte to it. Again, very traditional imagery, but it's beautifully done. It's simple, it's stark, and it lends it power. Look at that Three of Cups. That's interesting. No naked ladies rolling about here. Um, rolling about. I don't know if I haven't seen any Three of Cups suits that are rolling about, but there are sometimes they just look a little bit too much like power or like party girls, and this does not have that sense. I don't think these are females. I like that the water is spilling out. We often will see the three waters combining and then spilling out, so I like that. It's not my favorite card, but it's doable. Four of Cups. That's interesting, right? The Four of Cups is about stable, for me, is about stable emotions, right? I don't like the Rider-Waite-Smith interpretation of boredom or stagnation. That's the shadow aspect. But he's working. It's a little bit much more of an active, I guess you've got to work for that stable. You got to bring that water home so that you can have that stable energy. This one's not my absolute favorite, but it's nothing I can't work around. That's pretty cool. I like that. Look at that, being bound by your grief. That's really beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. Oh, I like that. Patrick said on this one that your emotional stability rests on your own shoulders. Yeah, you've got to do the work for it. So see, again, it's just like left of center. You just got to kind of slide with it. That's beautiful. Here we have the Six of Cups. Kind of just coming together, working together. There's definitely children here that are playing. They're filling up they're really taking those buckets and using them in all of them, like we saw with the wands and the candles, candelabras going all the way through it. So you have this continual usage. I even like how you have the almost the buckets themselves are coming apart, like they're not going to be able to hold any water, right? They're almost shattered. And obviously those of us who have experienced grief know that can be very shattering. And at this moment, those buckets are going to have to be repaired before they can hold water. And so you move from that though into the six, right? Again, with that light and the sunshine there versus that gloomy, rainy sky. So we can actually see the movement of the Five of Cups into the harmonizing energy of the Six of Cups. So that's, again, we've seen that in quite a few where, because of the way that they're kind of doing the series of that, is creepy. I like it though. Look at that creepy little head in there. That is, you've got money in the one, you've got the little plant there, you've got fire, you've got water, you've got mist rolling. That's really cool. I quite like this card. I'm not usually a fan. And you've got a zombie here. I'm not, Seven of Cups are one of those cards that's like I can take it or leave it. It's not really ever a card that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's actually really cool. I mean, just think about it. You're trying to set up these scenes. There's only so much you can do, right, to set up a scene. That is really cool. It's very smart. And then I do like that creepy little head right there. All right, there we go. Eight of Cups. I actually quite like, oh, I missed something. Three of Cups has the same color combo arrangement as the three vessels in the Tarot Volatile, the black, red, and white. Oh, yes, yes, yes. In the extra suit. Yes, nice call there. I really like this Eight of Cups. It's on the water. It's going off on that inner journey. The cups, I love the stacked buckets again. That was been through all of the suit. I think it's beautiful. Look at the Nine of Cups literally overflowing. That's really cool. Again, this is a very dark image. So people that struggle to see cards that are darker tone, I think would struggle with some of this in person. It's actually much easier for me to see in the monitor than it is for me to see in person. But this is really gorgeous. It is literally just overflowing. I love that. And then look at the almost pip-like, everything exactly as it needs to be, everything lined up exactly as it needs to pour from one to the other. Everything is as it should be in the happily ever after of the 10 of Cups. Oh, look at this page. That's kind of cute. All right, I like him. I like him. Yes, I do. Okay, I'm getting these all whopper jawed. There we go. Here we have the Knight of Cups. I like the umbrella. Sorry, I know I keep picking these up, but I like whatever. Oh, it's water pouring out. That is really gorgeous. Yeah, I like that. Here's, oh, look at her. Look at, she's literally watering this plant. Now, technically, she's probably drowning that plant in water, but you know, we we'll let that go for a minute there. Yeah, I'm loving the queens. The queens to me are quite powerful in different ways, but they are really strong. They're really strong. What is going on with this guy? Okay, I thought that was a noose, but that's actually water coming down on him. He's like taking in the water, and she's pouring the water out and nurturing the plants around her. So that's kind of cool with those two, the way those connect. Okay, we are last suit, folks. I was going to try to get this done in an hour. We're almost there. Here we have the Ace of Coins again, the fourth of the aces. I'm a big fan of the aces. I think they did a great job. Again, they evoked a traditional but doing it in a cool. That is cool. Love this balancing on the chairs with the coins at the edge of the water. Really cool. Here we have the Three of Coins. Again, you've got two people holding the coins, and if one of them lets go, it's going to fall. So there is that sense of working together here, which is really beautiful. I like this. I really like this. So they're burying the coins, right? Because the Four of Coins is not the time to spend your resources. It's time to hold your resources in. That works for me. Here we have the Five of Coins. This kind of reminds me of, because he's inside the bucket like this. You know how when you've lost all of the clothes off, like you've lost the shirt off your back, and so they would show somebody with a barrel that's like strapped over their shoulders because they've lost everything. That's that sense. The five, the resources have been disrupted. They're sleeping in a barrel. They may have to wear that barrel because they may lose a shirt off their back. So it has that sense of resources that are being disrupted there. Here we have the Six of Coins. This is kind of interesting because I'm not a big, I said this in the other deck. I'm not a big fan of like just like the one-way giving of Six of Coins. I really like to see that exchange of energy, but they aren't just getting energy. They almost looks like they're also offering energy up. So it has a little bit, I think it's still meant to be, you know, a Rider-Waite-Smith image of that. But for me, I'm able to see more of that giving and receiving aspect on both sides. So I do like that. Here we have the Seven of Coins. Again, very traditional. This is a very traditional deck. It just steps left and right of center. I know I've said that 20,000 times, but that's really what we're looking at. This is a very traditional Seven of Coins. They're not going to wait for everything to come into full fruition. This one actually doesn't have much going left of center. This is kind of just straight traditional. So it's slightly disappointing, the cards that you hit like that, just because there's a lot of interesting things happening in a lot of the cards. So when it does not have that sort of interesting twist, it's almost like, oh, I was ready to bend and I didn't have to. This is gorgeous. Again, working and very traditional, very much mastering his craft. The pentacles are very easy to see, and they feel very earthy. There are a lot more sun in them than are in the other ones. I don't know if we've seen any water. With almost all of always we've seen water. We do see water here, but they're also trying to balance. But for the most part, we're seeing a lot less water in the pentacle than we've seen in the rest of the deck. Beautiful 9 of coins, made space for herself. 10 of coins, that sense of legacy growing up the tree. All of the money is now making money and just rolling out there. And we've set things into motion that are going to continue to move forward in the 10. Here we have our page down in the hole, digging up. See, and there's also a lot of connective imagery, which I like in this deck. We have in the 4 of coins, having buried the coins, but now the page is coming in, is going to get one of those coins and start to see how they can start to learn to utilize those resources. So I like those connective energies. Here we have the knight. I really like that he's holding the bag. Again, it's more of a workhorse environment. It's off doing the things and carrying on the business that they have to carry on. All of the coins in there, I'm going to go out and use them. My least favorite queen, I have to say. And he's fine. Yeah, these are probably my least favorite. The kings to me have just been like, they've not held up in competition for me of the queens. But I mean, she's in the field, so I don't know what else to expect, right? Or what else to expect. It is very similar and to the field, except for the Queen of Pentacles or the Queen of Wands. She's just coming in there. She's definitely the head of this coven here, right? So I guess in context with these, it works. She's out in the field. The field is growing wheat. But she feels less dynamic than the other ones in some ways, but not horrible. And then she's just, this must have come from a dream or something, because this, like, she's just stepping in there with all the umph and the power. Okay, so there we have it. Let me roll out here. I feel like this is not going to shuffle, as I'm a riffle shuffler, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to riffle shuffle this. This is, I think Patrick said, what did you say? I'm not going to scroll. Maybe he'll put it back in here. I think it's like 400 GSM. That's not something that is easy to grab a hold of. If you have I always say I have big hands. I don't feel like I have disproportionately big hands, but I have long fingers. And so I don't often struggle with decks, but when you get a chunky deck and thick like this, it's a stretch. And it's definitely not a comfortable riffle. I can do it enough. Yeah, it's 400 GSM. I know all these people you guys love this 400 GSM, but definitely one of those that I would just like riffle shuffle once and then overhand, but it feels beautiful. Again, it's kind of that like the first edition Wild Unknown, where it was like uncomfortable to shuffle but worth it because it's beautiful. So some of you will love this cardstock if you love that thick, it's beautiful and thick. But if you're a riffle shuffler, you'll be like, I used to groan until the second edition Wild Unknown every time, and I use that a lot in readings, and I was just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna have to riffle this at least once. All right, let's put this out in a spread just so we can see the cards. This box is just really gorgeous. Stealing the show. So let's see what these are going to look like. Look at that King of Wands. I thought it was a queen for a second. 6 coins. Again, I'm kind of squishing this in here just so you guys can see it, because my head's in the way. I love that High Priestess. It doesn't have obviously some of the cards are dark, but I will say in person, this overall spread doesn't feel dark at all. And probably those white borders would really help. I know some people would probably want to consider trimming this just to bring the size down to manageable size. I will say in this deck, I almost feel like those white borders kind of keep it from going too far into the shadows. And you will probably, well, you definitely will lose some of the bright factor of the borders, excuse me. Um, and you would lose that, and you would certainly darken the deck down even more. So if you're thinking of trimming this, I would probably at least try to find maybe somebody that's trimmed it so that you can see it, because I wonder if it wouldn't just take it down that level of darkness that made it a little bit harder to work with. In some ways, the white border helps. Yeah, I feel like that this wouldn't well, I wouldn't trim it because of the back. I wouldn't want to lose that back. But I almost feel like this would be one that I personally, again, you might like that, right? It would definitely take it down into the shadows, especially if you're going to use it for like a shadow work deck, or if you're going to, again, use it for like ancestral or journeying type of deck readings. Then that extra layer of darkness and bringing it down may not matter. And it might be nice to have that, have that energy tamped down into the darkness level. But I almost think that that white sort of allows the colors and the imagery to pop even in the darker cards. But again, that's just what I'm thinking. So there you go. I'm really glad that I had an opportunity to take a look at the deck. I do think I will use this. I didn't think I would. Yes, Patrick has seen a couple of the cards. Was it one card, Patrick? Or more than one card? But has seen a couple of these cards. I know the Fool, and I saw the Fool in an illustrative style, and it would be really cool to have the whole deck that way. I don't know if that's something that's being considered at all. But normally when I'm doing like ancestor readings for myself, I'm just doing 3 cards. I would definitely use this in an ancestor reading. I would definitely use, and I've said this, I'm repeating myself, it's late. And I repeat myself anyways, but this, I'm just kind of processing it. I would, again, I would use this in a past life reading. I would use this in an ancestor type reading, or in a journey work, like a soul retrieval kind of thing. I can see ways in which I would use this deck, and I wouldn't have guessed that. I also don't, there are some intense cards, but I actually don't find it to be like that. Is just gorgeous. I don't actually find it to be as unsettling or creepy as I thought it would be with the covered faces. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. I don't think it's, like I said, like even Anna was saying, I don't think I would whip this out as a deck, for somebody's random tarot reading, because I think it does have, there's a power in decks that are very, very neutral, such as the Fountain Tarot. There's a neutrality there that doesn't bring any emotional context to the reading, and that's really important. I wouldn't say that's the case with this. I think this definitely would take a context of a reading down a notch, and not in a negative down, but in that sense of going deeper. And that's, if that's what you're looking for, that will utilize it. But if you're not looking to take the energy and drop it down another layer, it could sort of impact that emotional reaction. Whereas for me, when I'm entering ancestor space, or entering the roots of the tree, or dropping into the web, right, is that it is that drop down in. And so this actually highlights that energy of dropping into the roots, or dropping into the web, is how I visualize it. And this to me almost would facilitate that, versus, I'm just doing a work reading or something. This would give it a drop down in level that doesn't really warrant for the reading, if that makes sense. So pretty interesting, and one that I'll check back. I always do try, especially at the end of the year, to go through everything that I've reviewed, and just see how. I'll try to do that before a year with this one. I'll do some readings with it. and see. But I have a feeling that there's some good use to put to this one. I think I'd only want a reading for myself with this if Kelly did it. That's very not that it's me, but I understand what you're saying in the sense that I do think that you want the right reader, because I think some people could take this really down that I don't think it really needs to be, because I don't find this to be, it doesn't feel like that to me. It just feels like let's go, let's take a, are you willing to step into the cave with me? That would be, and again, I wouldn't just whip this out for another person, a client, unless I know, I have people that I read with repeatedly and I understand, we're doing some certain things. They trust where I'm going. So I do see instances I would use this with clients, but it would be very specific people. And it wouldn't be something I would just pull out on somebody, because I think that you could grab that imagery and I wouldn't use this deck to read for my daughter. She would find some of the images creepy and she would react to the cards in a certain way. But I think that if somebody was willing to step into the cave with me, it would be kind of cool. Heather says I would trust you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the trust. I think we would be just fine. Patrick says, okay, now no, and no. Even Neighborhood Arts, I don't think is going to support you in this. I am done speaking. I appreciate I know I taught a 3-hour class today. I have spoken 2 hours with the last one. So 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of talking is enough for any one human being. But it was fun. So thank you guys for taking a look at, some of you, both of these decks. I appreciate your joining in with me. It's really interesting. Again, it's kind of fun when you're able to experience decks that, like, I thought of purchasing this and I didn't. I just got lucky that Patrick couldn't resist purchasing it and then is allowing me to work with it and take a look at it. So that works out for me, because there are decks that, like, you would pass up on. Like, I wouldn't have purchased this because I thought it would creep me out, and it actually doesn't. It's kind of taken me into a cool space. I'm excited to do a reading with it. And so that's kind of cool when there's decks that you might miss out, but it's not like we can't buy all the decks, right? We wish we could buy all the decks, but we can't. So sometimes we do have to make those calls on whether, is this for me, is this not for me? And that's why we do walkthroughs, right? So that you can hopefully figure that out before purchasing it. Oh. Seaside says the new tarot called the Drowning Tarot. Ooh, that could be difficult. I think I'd have issues more with drowning. There's actually not any drowning feeling in this. I have some reoccurring grief nightmares associated with my son's death to do with drowning. He did not die from drowning, but I have recurrent grief nightmares that have to do with drowning. I don't know if that's one that I would be able to, I'd have to see it. I mean, I would have to look and see if I can't imagine any way to make that a lighthearted to be drowning. So I'm not sure you'll see me do a walkthrough of that one, Seaside Tarot. But yes, I am going to go turn into a vegetable and check out my where my poor little Animal Crossing island is at, pull a bunch of weeds. Oh, you sent me images of that, so it was more Pip-like. Maybe it's not creepy then. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it, but it doesn't sound like something I would like. But okay, I'm going to start babbling. Oh, thank you. I'm going to click this first. Oh, it doesn't let me do that. See, I'm not allowed to click on them because it just puts it up there. Everybody else gets to click on it, but I don't get to click on it. I can block Patrick or put him in a timeout, but that's it. Okay. I'll look it up when I get off. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you again for walking through this with me. It was very interesting. And I will see you all later.